Okay, so let's jump right into a question that I think every single teacher asks themselves at some point. How much of my real self should I actually bring into the classroom? Am I supposed to be a person or am I supposed to be a performer? Today, we are going to dig right into that conflict. Does this sound at all familiar? It's that feeling, right? Like you're putting on a costume the second you step in front of your students. You're trying so hard to be that teacher, but it just doesn't quite feel like you. It's a feeling so many of us have, like we're actors in our own professional lives. So, we're going to break this whole internal debate down. See, on one side, you've got this call to be authentic, to be a real person. And on the other, there's this intense pressure to perform, to project this image of perfect confidence and control. Let's really explore both sides of this coin. So, when we talk about authenticity in the classroom, what are we really talking about here? It's not about, oversharing your whole life story or losing all your professional boundaries. No, no. It's about being appropriately real. It's letting your students see some genuine reactions and natural behaviors instead of just hiding everything behind a professional mask. Okay, so what's the case for bringing more of your true self into your teaching? Why do so many educators really push for this idea of being the real teacher? Well, the biggest voice for this was the educational psychologist Carl Rogers. For him, this wasn't just some nice little add-on. He believed it was the single most important quality a teacher could have. He argued that being authentic is what builds real rapport, real trust, and at the end of the day, a successful classroom. And I love this quote from Rogers. His point is that a teacher is a real person. You get enthusiastic, you get bored sometimes, you might get angry or feel sympathetic. You're not just a, quote, sterile tube for information. You're a human being trying to connect with other human beings. And this really gets at something fundamental. We can all kind of sense when someone is putting on an act, and we just instinctively trust them less for it. But, of course, that's only one side of the story. There's a completely different argument, one that's a lot more pragmatic, that says great teaching isn't about being something. It's about doing something. It's a skillful and totally necessary performance. And here to make that point is educational advisor Sue Cowley. Her view is basically, look, how you feel inside, your doubts, your exhaustion, your anxieties, that stuff is irrelevant. Your job is to step onto the classroom stage and perform the role of a confident, in-control teacher. It's all about projecting mastery, no matter what's really going on under the surface. And here is where you can really see the two camps, side by side. You've got Rogers, the idealist, who says you gotta be yourself to build trust. Then you have Cowley, the pragmatist, who says, nope, put on a great show to inspire confidence. One is all about genuine human reactions, and the other basically says your inner feelings don't matter when you're on the job. So where on earth does that leave us? Well, it seems like the real secret here isn't about picking a side in this big debate. It's not a choice between being a perfect actor or a completely unfiltered person. Maybe the actual goal is finding an authentic style that works for you, one that kind of blends the best of both worlds. So how do we actually do that? How do we navigate this tension? Well, luckily, we're not just left hanging. The source material lays out 5 small but really powerful techniques to help teachers build an authentic style that still feels professional and, most importantly, effective. So here's the path forward. First up, stop trying to behave like a job title and just start behaving like yourself. Second, when you talk with students, try to have a real conversation. Third, and this one's huge, if you don't know something, just say so. It builds way more trust than faking it. Fourth, be a little cautious about that old school staff room advice that pushes you to be distant or super formal. And finally, remember that authority doesn't have to come from some cloak of teacher superiority. It can just come from you, being in charge. Of course, as you're hearing all this, you might be thinking, yeah, that sounds great, but what about the risks? I mean, being vulnerable in front of a whole classroom of students can feel incredibly scary. What if they lose respect for me? Let's just sit with these doubts for a second because they are so real. There's that worry about revealing your limitations, like not knowing an answer. Then there's the fear of being too sincere. I mean, what happens if you show genuine anger or disappointment? And really, underneath it all, is that deep concern that if you let your guard down, your students will just lose faith in you. But here's the counterpoint to those fears. The author suggests that, well, students can almost always see through the act anyway. Kids are smart, you know? That attempt to hide the truth can actually create more tension, and in the long run, it can really undermine the very trust you're trying to build. Sometimes an honest expression of disappointment is so much more powerful than some rigid by-the-book procedure. At the end of the day, there is no single right answer here. So let's make this personal now. It's all about finding what's right for you in your classroom. So we're going to end with just a few questions for you to reflect on. The next time you're teaching, maybe just take a quiet moment and ask yourself this. Are my students seeing something close to the real me? Or are they getting a performance of what I think a teacher is supposed to look and sound like? And it might be worth digging into that fear a little bit. Are you worried that letting them see you as a person, not just as the all-knowing expert or the authority figure, will somehow cause you to lose their respect? What's really behind that feeling? And for our last one, this might be the biggest question of them all. Your school, your colleagues, your students' own expectations, they all create a certain context, right? So how much does that environment empower you to be the teacher you truly want to be? And what's maybe one small step you could take to start closing that gap?